Lots more to come here on Chat News, including us going traveling.
Traveling with Dan is presented by South Country Co-op.
I absolutely love touring stadiums, especially baseball stadiums, but football, soccer, all types of stadiums. The Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome, commonly just called the Metrodome, was a dome stadium located in downtown Minneapolis, Minnesota. It opened in 1982 and was the home of the NFL's Minnesota Vikings and Major League Baseball's Minnesota Twins. The Twins won the World Series in this building twice, in 1987 and again in 1991. The Vikings have never won anything in this building. And for a while, it was a pretty good stadium, but it was only a short while. The final game at the Metrodome took place on December 23rd, 2013, and the roof was deflated and demolition began on January 18th, 2014. The Metrodome was torn down in sections while construction of US Bank Stadium began. US Bank Stadium is built on the exact same former site of the Metrodome. The indoor stadium opened in 2016 and is the home of just the Minnesota Vikings of the NFL. The Vikings played their first preseason game at US Bank Stadium on August 28th. The home opener of the regular season was in Week 2 against the Green Bay Packers on September 18th, a 17-14 victory. The team is called the Vikings, so yes, there is a Viking ship built into the outside commons. Today we're going inside the stadium for a tour, and for some reasons the tour starts with the Yellowhorn. Now, Minnesota Vikings sound this Yellowhorn from Norse of Viking mythology as a rally cry before home games. This piece measures 107 feet long, 25 feet high, 30 feet wide, and weighed over 38 tons. Now, we didn't get to hear it blown up close on the tour, but the tour starts right here. Now, I love it when you take a tour of a sports facility and they take you into the private boxes. Since most of us will never be able to afford going to a game that takes place in an all-you-can-eat and drink private box, they like to show it to us. But you know the one thing that none of these private boxes they showed us at US Bank Stadium have? Their own washrooms. You pay all that money and you still have to go with the masses. I always find that quite funny. One of the things they have in abundance at US Bank Stadium is art. Not just pictures of old players in their prime, there's actually art all over the stadium, and most of it is beautiful. This is a picture of a crowd of people. Do you see the crowd of people? Fantastic. While the Vikings owners wanted an outdoor stadium, the state and local governments would only provide funding for an indoor stadium capable of hosting major events like the Super Bowl. So a retractable roof was the trend in 2010s. However, those types of roofs are not typically designed for the roof to be open and closed in freezing temperatures. So the architects decided to go for a lightweight, translucent roof and glazed entrances with giant pivoting doors aiming to get as much natural light from the outside as possible. Look at this place. It's gorgeous. And the windows at the very end, they open and close. Also gorgeous, this picture of Prince. As one of the most famous people from Minneapolis and the performer who many believe gave the greatest Super Bowl halftime show ever, this piece of art of Prince is made up of many of Prince's lyrics. And that is what it looks like when doves cry. I honestly expected this locker room to be much bigger. This is the home locker room, but this is it. This is where all those big, huge football players go to dress. The goal was to keep them as close together as possible, and of course, this is just a corner. It's actually quite large, but small by league standards. Hey, forget the artwork. The private suites, the restaurants, the bars, all of that stuff they have at US Bank Stadium. Let's get to the field. And on this tour, they actually let you run on the field. A lot of football stadiums don't. So let me do a rundown of people's names. Patrick Mahomes, Justin Jefferson, Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, Nick Bosa, Travis Kelce, Joe Burrow, Tyreek Hill, Josh Allen, Micah Parsons. They have all played on this field where I'm standing right now. These stadiums are also huge, and this one was huge. But when you're standing in the corner of the end zone on the field by the tunnel where the visiting team comes out, it doesn't really look as huge as it feels for some reason. Still another pretty cool picture, eh? Okay, let's get to some numbers. The seating capacity, 66,860 for most games. That's slightly more than the Metrodome. It can be expanded to 73,000 for soccer, concerts, and special events such as the Super Bowl. Now, that area always looks smaller in real life. Can you imagine having to kick a football through those two uprights from 60 yards away? No way. Back in the concourse now, and a cool marker down on the ground. This is where home plate was in the Metrodome. The Twins play downtown at Target Field now, but at one time they stood right here to try to get hits and win games. Very cool. Yes, it's primarily a football stadium, but it's also used for other things like graduations. Some people in the area get to graduate here and then run down to the part of the field that's left uncovered and score a touchdown on an NFL field. Now that would be very cool. I used to find myself spending a lot of time in Minneapolis, much more than I've spent there recently, and so I've never actually attended an event at US Bank Stadium, but it's an impressive place to tour, and one day I'll go back and see a game or a concert there. All that said, long live the memory of the Metrodome. It had its flaws, but it was unique and one of a kind. And above all else, since we're talking about the NFL, let's go Bills! Woo!
Traveling with Dan is presented by South Country Co-op.